The medical bay aboard the human research vessel, Prometheus hummed with quiet efficiency as Dr. Liza Chen made her final preparations. Across the sterile room, her colleague Dr. James Morrison monitored the complex array of biomedical equipment. They had spent months calibrating for this moment. Their patient Cathara lay still on the examination table. The Zilani female's pale blue skin seemed almost translucent under the medical lights, and the scarred tissue where her eyes had once been told a story of suffering that neither human fully comprehended. For 15 years, she had lived in darkness, a due punishment imposed by her own people for crimes she claimed she never committed. "Vitals are stable," James reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "Neural activity in the visual cortex shows promising baseline readings." Liza nodded, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. The Zilani hegemony had written Cathara off as irredeemable, but humans had a different perspective on second chances. When they had encountered her in a refugee camp on the Outer Rim, something about her story had resonated with both doctors. "Cathara," Liza said softly in carefully practiced Zilani dialect, "we're ready to begin the procedure. Remember, this technology has never been tested on your species before." The alien's head turned toward her voice. "Dr. Chen," she replied in accented but clear standard, "I have lived 15 years without hope. Whatever outcome awaits, I am grateful for your willingness to try." The procedure they were attempting was revolutionary even by human standards. Biosynthetic neural implants connected to quantum-enhanced optical processors, a fusion of biological and artificial systems that could theoretically restore sight to any species with compatible neural architecture. The Galactic Medical Council had deemed it too experimental, too dangerous. But humans had always possessed a peculiar talent for pushing boundaries others considered impassable. As Liza began the delicate process of installing the first neural interface, she reflected on how they had reached this point. Cathara's case had become something of an obsession for both doctors. The Zilani claimed she had betrayed military secrets to enemy forces, but the evidence had always been circumstantial. More troubling was the severity of her punishment. Not just blindness, but surgical sterilization, condemning her to a life without the possibility of continuing her genetic line. "First implant is in place," Liza announced. "Neural pathway integration at 73% and climbing." James monitored the quantum processors as they came online. "Optical systems are initializing. We're getting feedback from the synthetic retinal array." The truly remarkable aspect of their approach wasn't just the technology, it was the philosophy behind it. Where other species saw punishment as permanent, humans saw an engineering problem. Where others accepted that some damage couldn't be undone, humans asked, why not? "Cathara, I'm going to activate the visual processing core now," Liza said. "You may experience disorientation as your brain learns to interpret the new signals." The alien's breathing quickened slightly. "I understand." James watched the neural activity monitors as patterns began forming in previously dormant regions of Cathara's brain. "Visual cortex is responding. We're seeing activity in areas that have been silent for 15 years. Then it happened. Cathara gasped, her head moving frantically from side to side. There are shapes, light and shadow. Is this—" "It's working," Liza breathed, hardly believing it herself. "Your brain is learning to see again." Over the next several hours, they calibrated and fine-tuned the system. Gradually, Cathara's vision cleared. She could distinguish objects, recognize faces, and eventually read text displayed on nearby monitors. When she looked at herself in a mirror for the first time in 15 years, tears streamed down her face. A biological response that transcended species boundaries. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "The greatest Zilani physician said my condition was irreversible." James and Liza exchanged glances. It was a question they had heard often since joining the galactic community. How did humans consistently achieve the impossible? "Because," Liza said finally, "we refuse to accept that impossible means permanent. Every species in the galaxy has their strengths. Ours seems to be an unreasonable refusal to give up on people." As news of the successful procedure spread throughout the galaxy, it sparked something unexpected. Other species began requesting human medical intervention for conditions their own physicians had deemed hopeless. The Zilani hegemony, faced with undeniable evidence of Cathara's restored vision, quietly began reviewing other cases where permanent punishment had been imposed. Cathara herself became something more than a medical success story. She became a symbol, proof that no darkness was so complete that it couldn't be illuminated, no damage so severe that it couldn't be healed, no person so lost that they couldn't be found again. Standing in the observation deck of the Prometheus, weeks later watching Cathara guide other recovering patients through their own rehabilitation, Liza felt the familiar warmth of satisfaction that came with making the impossible routine. "You know," James said, joining her at the viewport, "the Galactic Council is calling this the most significant medical breakthrough in centuries." Liza smiled. "I think they're missing the point. This isn't about the technology. It's about deciding that everyone deserves a second chance at seeing the light." In the distance, stars wheeled in their ancient courses, and somewhere among them, word was spreading about the species that refused to accept defeat. The humans, who brought light to those condemned to darkness, hope to those abandoned by their own kind, and sight to those who had given up on ever seeing again. The galaxy was learning that when humans said impossible, they really meant not yet.